So good morning, everybody. Welcome to the last series, week 8 of Advancing Women in Tourism. So this is our webinar and podcast series that we've been running for the last 8 weeks. And I'm very excited to have you as our panelists this week on our last show. So thank you very much for accepting. It's been an interesting ride this last 8 weeks, and I knew that when I was working, and I introduced to you Bindi from the Ethical Change Agency. So Bindi has been my IT guru and enables these webinars to be put over to a podcast format. So I'm grateful and really appreciative for her expertise in this. When we first started 8 weeks ago, our industry was in just total chaos, and hello, Elise. I'm sorry about that. We were in total chaos, and it was just an unknown land. So we've really been on a journey with all the inspiring ladies that we've chatted to. We've gone from we are totally shut down, we're not quite sure what we're doing. Some people have taken some time just to be with family. Some people have, some people, really got into their product and did some upgrades, but there was a lot of uncertainty, and it's really wonderful to slowly see, we certainly haven't finalized the coming through of this, but slowly see the opening up of Queensland to Queenslanders, and as of this week, opening up Queensland to the majority of states in Australia. So we still have an indication of what's happened in the state of Victoria, that we just can't let, anything happen too fast if we're not quite sure. This particular coronavirus has been incredibly serious around the world. And as much as we are all blessed to be in Australia and blessed to be in Queensland, where we're relatively, I think we've got one case maybe in Queensland that is currently coming out of confirmation, but we've been incredibly blessed. So it's almost as if life continues. Business life hasn't, but personal life seems to have continued. So I'm going to now formally ask you to introduce yourselves, introduce your position, your business, and where you're currently up to at the moment. So we might start with Karen from Merry Valley Rattler in beautiful Gympie. She was just letting us know that yesterday morning it was 0 degrees. So winter is well and truly there. So hi, Karen, how are you? We just need to unmute you. There we go. Oops, no.
There we go. Sorry about that.
Hi,
good morning.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for the introduction, and thank you, Kayleen, for inviting me to join this this panel today. I've been watching the podcasts if I haven't been able to log on, and it's just a great platform to connect. And so thank you very much for the opportunity to be part of it. I'm Karen from the Merry Valley Rattler, based heritage rail experience, tourism rail experience based out of Gympie. Relatively new, back on track operation, recommenced operations in October 2018. So we're situated just a couple hours north of Brisbane, between the beautiful Fraser coast and Sunshine Coast. So we've got a lovely north and south opportunity for our business. So we're currently just recommencing our operations. So we came back with a soft start. We sort of started back as we ended up, like we're moving with smaller capacity on trains forward to this weekend, where we're really looking to get to our I guess what you call our new normal operations. So we've been running as soon as we could, and on smaller capacity and on a smaller train. But as things progress and open up, we're opening up our services and increasing our capacity. So it's great to see trains running again on the line. It's good to see our volunteers back. Great that we were able to bring so many of our team back on JobKeeper. So yeah, it's just great to be seeing the business humming again.
And Karen, you mentioned volunteers. How have you been able to keep them connected during this time?
Yeah, so that was an interesting challenge for us. I mean, fortunately, most of them are connected on, with email and things like that. And we started a volunteer and staff Facebook page, which was great. That was a really nice way to keep them up to speed with what we were doing over the time that we were in shutdown. Some of them could, you know, it was actually quite good for them to take a little bit of a break, I'd have to say, because it's been quite the trajectory since the Rattler's been back on track, and it gave them a little bit of time to just have a bit of a chill out. But we kept in touch with them via phone and via this Facebook page, and with a couple of EDMs out to them just to keep them informed of how we were tracking. So they were itching to get back. So it was, you know, they've come back really fresh. It's really nice.
And just to provide listeners with perspective, how many volunteers are we talking about that's part of your operation?
Well, we've got quite a number on the books, you know, over 100, but we, you know, that's across the business, and they come and go. You know, we've got a workshop, which is kind of like a train nut mailed, you know, great, like a men's shed for train enthusiasts. And they work, there's quite a few people that come in and out of the workshop down there. Then we've got our guest experience attendants, and we've got, you know, so we've got a lot of different facets of work that they do. So at any one time, you know, we could, like, some days we've had up to 30 down in the workshop, and if we've got a full train, we'd have a guest experience attendant on every carriage. So, but yeah, we're currently in a bit of a recruitment drive, just because we know that we're going to have a bit of a busy, I think, upcoming few months. Yeah.
No. I just love, as you know, I'm a big believer and supporter of volunteers in organisations such as yourself. It very much is a win-win scenario, both for the organisation and for the volunteer. They love contributing and they love what they get out of it. So thanks, Karen, for that introduction. I'll pop back in later and maybe just, you know, hear from you as to what have been your primary challenges during this time, or any key learnings that you've taken out. So thanks, Karen. Terrific. And from Gympie, we're going down to the Gold Coast. Hi, Alicia. How are you?
Sorry, just unmuting myself there. Hi. Thank you again also for having me on the podcast. It's exciting to participate today. So yes, I'm from Paradise Resort Gold Coast, and I look after the sales and marketing team here at the resort. I think, like many, it's been a very challenging few months. I've been with the property for 18 and a half years, and the property itself is almost 40 years old, and it's the first time we've ever had to close our doors. So many of you probably know Dr. Jerry Schwartz purchased the property on the 29th of February, and less than a month later we closed our doors. So it was, yeah, I think a few days of unknown what was going to happen next. We've been very fortunate though that Jerry and our general manager David Brooke got straight in and said, you know what, this is actually a perfect opportunity for us to start renovations, which were long overdue. So we've been very fortunate, and I consider myself very, very lucky that we've been able to keep our staff on JobKeeper, helping within the property. And so many of the team are coming to work with smiles on their face, extremely proud of, you know, picking up a paintbrush. You know, they're normally chefs in the kitchen and they're out painting the resort, or, you know, kids club attendants that are out helping tidy up the gardens. We had our housekeeping team ripping out furniture, and yeah, so it's, I think, everyone's been through change, and yeah, again, just nice to be in a fortunate position. We're gearing up for reopening on the 1st of September, so we're counting down the days, waiting to get guests back. We're all sort of feeling like we can't really remember what that was like to have guests running around our lobby. We've got tradies in there at the moment, so yeah, very excited about what the future is going to hold for us all come September.
So are you still currently in that refurbishing mode? Is that the reason why you're not opening until 1 September?
We are, correct. So our entire lobby is, there's still scaffolding being pulled down outside my office. So I've got the earphones in case any jackhammers or anything like that start up. They're ripping up tiles at the moment to replace all of that. All of the first stage of room renovations is completely under construction. All of our food and beverage outlets have been ripped out. None of that was planned 3 months ago. So obviously it was you know, we shut down, we said, what happens next? Jerry obviously was sort of you know, going, what do we do now? It was meant to be a 3-year plan. So much was brought forward to take, I guess, you know, advantage of this time while we're closed to get the big stuff done.
Very exciting. And just to give people an idea of size, how many rooms are we talking about? I mean, I've known your property in numerous states for a long time on the Gold Coast. It really is, you know, the family fun place to have taken. So just, you know, give us a scale of the size and the renovation costs. What are you injecting into it?
Yeah, look, the property, we've got 360 rooms here, so it's
Big
quite
property.
Deceiving from the outside. A lot of people drive past and don't actually know what's in the middle. We sit on 5 acres of land here in the middle of surfers paradise, so that in itself is also unheard of. The first stage is over $2.5 million that has been injected in this first stage of refurbishment, and there is still a lot more to come. So as I said, Jerry is himself still working out on what is going and what's happening next. But I believe that it was, you know, up to $10 million to be spent over the next 3 years.
Very exciting. And I'm really delighted to hear that, you know, your staff have been on board as becoming part of the solution to the problem. I've had numerous clients over the years, hotels, whereby for a variety of reasons, they brought on staff to help with, as you said, picking up a paintbrush, cleaning certain things. I've seen them work late into the night, and it's their property. This is what we're doing.
Absolutely.
So, yeah. So I'd love to come back when we go through again and just hear from you, opening up 1 September, what that has meant from a communication point of view, who are your target market, how things may have changed. So
Absolutely.
Thanks, Alicia. Appreciate
Thank you.
all the best. Zoe, hello, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. Hello.
Excellent. So introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about the property and what's been happening now.
Yeah, so my name is Zoe. I'm the owner of Ohana Winery and Cheeky Tiki Cider up here in beautiful Bundaberg. Behind me is Kelly's Beach, which is about 500 metres down the road that way, but it's
gorgeous.
A little bit windy today, so I don't mind being indoors. And yeah, so we produce a whole range of boutique fruit wines, apple ciders, liqueurs, ports, all sorts of fun boozy stuff up here in Rum City. And yeah, we've been shut for 2.5 months. We've only just been back for about 3 weeks now.
Okay, so your client, who is it? Locals that have been supporting you? What's been happening there?
Yeah, it's been a really interesting couple of months. So in our business, we have a few different kind of aspects to it. So we have people who come and visit us and do the tastings and whatnot at the cellar door. Obviously, that all stopped. We have a whole range of wholesale customers. So pubs, clubs, bars, restaurants, all that. They've all stopped. Lucky for us, though, we do have a few bottle shops. So Dan Murphy is still on board, which was great. They increased actually in what they were purchasing off us, so I'm not complaining about that. And their payment terms, actually, they were really awesome. They helped us, or helped a lot of small producers. Instead of 60 days from the end of the month, all of a sudden it was 14 days, which certainly helped in this time.
Wow, that is so nice to hear that organisations like that remembered that cash flow is just so critical at this
Absolutely.
stage. Yeah. So what's been one of the toughest, just give me a bit of an idea on scale. You're obviously the owner. What sort of staff do you have?
2 of us.
Excellent.
It's a nice little ma and pa business, yeah.
Yeah.
So for us, we actually kind of took it as an opportunity for some forced annual leave. It was a little scary in the beginning.
Yeah.
But then, after the first initial, what are we going to do? We took a break. Josh, practiced a bit of golf, and I did a paint by numbers, and it really was lovely to take that time out from the business rather than being in there, day in, day out, live and breathe it every 5 seconds, to actually stop and take a breath and realize, hey, maybe there is a little bit more than just, the daily grind every day.
I really appreciate you saying that, because I'm a big believer that there's a lot of power in space. Sometimes, particularly when there has been a situation, of turmoil and our head is spinning as to what do I do next? Do I want to live in this state of fear? While we're in that, it doesn't actually benefit you personally or the business. So it can be a brave move sometimes to go, I'm just going to take a breath. It's going to be okay. I'm just going to trust the process, whatever that process is at the moment, because it was out of your control.
Absolutely.
Out of all of our control. And sometimes just by relinquishing that control and going, there's nothing I can do about it, but I can do something about me. And
Absolutely.
how did your paint by numbers go?
Oh, it's fabulous. I was really into it, actually. I find it so like zen and so relaxing, and Josh found it, you know, boring as all hell, but to be fair, I find golf boring as all hell. So I think we equally agreed in each other's hobbies for that one. But yeah, like you say, it was just really nice to take that breathing space and just trust that, you know, whatever the new normal will be, and we'll just make it work. We're young, we're flexible, we're adaptable. Our business is ours. We don't have any kind of corporate overheads, anything to kind of keep happy, that we can really roll with the punches and take this opportunity to streamline and adjust what we do and how we do things moving forward.
I love the passion and enthusiasm, and I love the spirit. You know, sometimes we just got to go with the flow. I'd love to have a chat to you when we come back around about your partnerships, you know, to have been a business that is so young and started it yourself, to have such great partnerships, example like Dan Murphy's, and maybe you can just express how you went about that, and if that's changing or if your packaging is changing. So I'll have a little bit more about the actual business itself. Thanks,
Yeah,
Josh.
sure.
All the best. Elise, hello. How are you? Now, Eloise has let me know that she's actually on. Are you in reception or something at the moment?
Yeah, I am. I'm at Keppel Connections, our ferry service at the moment.
Okay, so if she has to pop up, we might come up to Georgina. But while it's quiet, let's take an opportunity to introduce yourself and introduce the product.
Well, my name is Eloise, and I work for Great Keppel Island Hideaway, proud stockists of Tiki Cider, and Keppel Connections ferry service. So I look after the sales and marketing, but obviously at the moment the world's a bit crazy and we're sort of jack of all. So 5 minutes ago I was loading stock with one of my colleagues, our skipper, and now I'm on a webinar. So here I am.
We've all got to be a bit of jack of all trades during this particular time. So businesses opening up, what's happening there? When did you start? Was it only just recently or in the last couple of weeks?
So the Hideaway's accommodation reopened on the 1st of June with those first easing of restrictions. We're quite lucky. We have a really strong local market anyway. So we were quite fortunate there that everyone was sort of dying to get away and escape for a weekend. Keppel Connections was a bit more challenging. We've run with pretty restricted numbers up until Friday just gone. So when you're paying for a marina berth and you've got your overheads running anyway, that's always a bit of a challenge. But we're hoping that things are sort of opening up and almost back to normal. We're very busy. We've been fortunate that numbers have been strong. So going forward, we've got plenty to keep our hands full.
Tell us a little bit more about Hideaway. What sort of accommodation? What is the actual product itself?
So Great Keppel Island Hideaway, it's a bit of an older property on Great Keppel. So we did use our closed time to do some refurbs, a bit like everyone else was saying. There's lots of paint has been splashed around, and the gardens and everything have had some TLC. Older properties come with their own struggles anyway, so we don't have mainland power or water. So a big one for us is our generator runs regardless of whether guests are in-house or not. So we have overheads that the mainland might not have in quite such volumes. But we're a back to basics property. We've got 48 rooms and a licensed restaurant. And then Connections is our transfer segment as well.
Excellent. Thank you, Eloise. And love to find out a little bit about, you know, you're in a regional area, staffing, how that's happened with the island. We'll come back and have a little bit of a chat about that. Thank you. Georgina, how are you? Welcome. I remember when I spoke to you originally and invited you, you were saying you were being flogged by phone calls, which made my heart sing at the time, because up until that point, all I'd received is, you know, a lot of doom and gloom from what was out there. So that was really a bit of spark and a bit of joy. So how have things been going? Introduce yourself and the property.
Hi, I'm Georgina and I'm park manager at Discovery Holiday Parks on Fraser Street in Hervey Bay. So it's a caravan park with 32 cabins and about 60 private ensuite sites, and then just your standard powered sites. Part of my cabins are 6 brand new safari tents, which we launched 19th of December, just before Christmas, and then they were booked solid for the Easter school holidays, and obviously that didn't happen. So, but really, really pleased with these last school holidays. We've been at about 95% occupancy for the last 3 weeks. Thank goodness. But geez, there was doom and gloom at the start. It was scary. It was such a foreign land to be in, especially we were lucky we were still open for essential travellers. So we had quite a few nomad families in, and we also had some workers that would come and go. But just for that initial first few weeks, everybody, it was such a eerie, awful atmosphere, not just in the park, but outside. People weren't smiling, people weren't greeting one another. It all went the opposite to what we've all been so used to doing and operating like, with greeting people, welcoming them into our receptions, chatting to them of an afternoon. It was all very surreal. And initially, nobody really knew how long it was going to last for. So you were dealing with, well, for myself, I was dealing with the property and the guests we had in house, and then I had my kids, and it was all a very challenging time. So when Anna released that restrictions on Queensland travel, we were just overwhelmed with bookings. And I think what I've felt over the last couple of weeks, I think people just aren't going to take the ability to move even for 100-kilometre distance for granted anymore. People are really lapping. I've had so many people in the park just for 2-night stays. And I think that will really continue for a long time as people just embrace the fact that they're allowed to move. And they realise just how important getting out and going away from your normal day-to-day is to their well-being.
I think that's a really good point, whereby we often, would hold off until that annual, once a year. The being with family, being able to connect, having time away, having been forced into a bit of a shutdown and reflection time, they're going, okay, I think we need to do that more often.
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe we need to, do more paint by numbers like Zoe, or, reconnect just as a family. I'm currently in Brisbane. I live in Brisbane. My family are in Cairns. So I'm on a road trip coming up in the next couple of weeks, taking 5 weeks to visit all you beautiful people and pop in and say hello, because it's been really interesting. You can phone, but when you physically don't have the choice to see, it really just makes the heart grow fonder. So I think we all appreciate friends and family so much more. So that's a really important part. And Georgina, you were telling me that you have done quite a bit of renovation as well during this time.
Yeah, so we've refurbished a lot of the park. And our, same as what you we were saying earlier, I had the office girls doing deep cleans in cabins, office girls doing painting. My grounds guys just did so many internal paints on a lot of the cabins. Amenities floors got retiled and regrouted, and new paint. External painting on a few of the cabins we achieved as well. But then the opening up came really quickly. So initially at the start we were like, oh yeah, this is great, we're going to get so much done. But then the travel restrictions were lifted, and it's taken us by surprise, and it really took a lot to get our groove back on with the overwhelming numbers of check-ins. And then obviously a lot of the infrastructure hadn't been used for a long time. So we were seeing quite a few issues with that every day.
That's an interesting point.
And
you forget that when things have been shut down, the reopening, it doesn't automatically go to plan, and things that you can't physically see, like you say, sewerage pipes, all of those sort of things not necessarily functioning as they had done so before. You don't know, you can't see that, so until it actually happens. Well, we'll pop back in. I'd love to hear, I know there's been a lot of challenges and you've tapped into some of those, but any key learnings and how you see the future unfolding for us. I'd love to hear about that as well. Thanks, Georgina.
Okay.
So Karen, the Mary Valley Rattler, I mean, you only just restarted again a couple of years ago. So it's all very exciting for a destination to have that fantastic product. And then all of a sudden, the mat is pulled from out of us. What were some of the key challenges or key learnings that you took out of that as the business structure that you currently have?
I guess for us there was a bit of an opportunity. It was having been back on track only since October 2018. We jumped in and it was go and when we had the time to stop and take a breath and look at the services and look at the delivery and things, we actually had some learnings from that period. And as a new business, that's pretty fortunate, really. And we could take that time to kind of tweak and streamline and restructure our delivery, our services. We knew what our customers wanted, and we were able to actually just come back in now with what we think is a really a good fit for the business, a good fit for the team, and we're going to have full trains and delivering what people want. Interestingly for us, one of the big learnings for me in particular in my role is that this issue of price sensitivity is not as strong as people think. We actually put our prices up a bit, but we also introduced some premium product services, and they're going gangbusters. So I guess what we did was realize that we're really confident in the product that we have, where we took the time to really look at our guest experience and our customer service and think, we're not afraid to charge this because it's fine, and the feedback's been great. So we added some first class options, and we did some bundling with some other product within the business. So that was a great thing for us to realize that no, they're happy to pay for it if you deliver good service and a good experience.
I think it's one of those products that you've got your coffee shop, you've got the train rides, you've got fantastic commentary and in the educational experience that comes with your product as well. And a lot of that comes from the depth of the volunteers and the stories, that relatability. Price, it's one of those things, and I've noticed that in the opening up, that there isn't a lot of discounting actually happening out there in the market. And it doesn't seem to be deterring people. I think people need to look at that as the months go on, because there is definitely a pent-up demand for experience, but it needs to be value experience. So if you're not delivering the product that you said you would, or deliver it in the manner that you said you would deliver it, as in the customer service, I think we could all be, there's a lot of product out there, so people have a lot of choices. So I think we all need to be on our toes. So some of the changes that you've made, were they around packaging the actual product? You talked about, combining some. Could you give us some examples of what you've done there?
Yeah, so what we did was we actually, it was such a big, quick growth for us. We started running 3 days a week, and when we closed, we were running 6 days a week. Some of those days we were running double departures on the trains. So we actually streamlined that a bit. So we've got larger capacity on the train. So we're running 1 train a day, and we're starting back with 4 days running, which is pretty good.
Amazing.
We packaged a tasting train. So the Mary Valley has beautiful produce. So we delivered a new product on a rail motor, not the steam train, and it was all inclusive, and that went so well, so popular. We're actually running that at the moment, so that's what we came back on with, and it's been full every day. So, I mean, granted, the capacity is less than what the train can actually take, but the demand is definitely there. So, we realized that people are they want the grab and go. They're quite happy to just include the breakfast and or lunch and some food, and we did some nice value add things like certificates of travel and that type of thing. And I think that's pretty palatable for people right now, where they can just go, yep, that sounds good. I'm going to just take that and pack it and come and stay for a night. So the other thing that we've done is worked with some of our industry partners, both accommodation and other tour operators, transport operators, and really packaged up some offerings around that. So you know, encouraging people to just make it as easy as possible. And ours is a very family experience. So, you know, it's nice to be able to deliver a full package that's a fit for all. So we've had good success with that.
That's wonderful. And you say it's a family package. Where are your target markets coming from? I know we've only just started opening up. Are there a lot of Brisbaneites, or is it the Sunshine Coast, or?
Yeah. So it's really interesting. So what we've done is stepped up with our feedback processes. So not only within, you know, at time of booking through ResD, our ticketing platform, but we're also really want to know what the motivators are for people to come and where are they coming from. And so we've actually, we have always had a feedback form on the trains. Some people can be bothered and some not, but we're actually making a point of saying to them through our commentary on the train or when they come back to the cafe, look, if you wouldn't mind taking a minute to fill this out, and particularly at this time, it's very helpful to us. So we've added some more questions like, you know, we know where they are by postcode when they book, but, you know, did you stay overnight as a result of coming here? Was this your primary reason in coming? What else are you doing whilst you're here? So that's giving us a really interesting wider scope of data to look at. So a lot of Brisbane, a lot of Sunshine Coast, and even, you know, Hervey Bay, Bundaberg. So that drive market is on the go in the car.
Well,
and that's really nice to see. And we're getting lots of day trippers from Brisbane.
Fantastic to hear. And Karen, as you know, I love data. I've always said, you know, the two most valuable things in the world from my perspective, one is water and the other is data. And any of my clients are very well aware, you know, if they're entering into tourism awards, and hopefully they will be reintroduced again for next year, data is the absolute key element. So it's the key element for a successful business to ascertain where you're going, what the customer wants, and to be able to, you know, benchmark yourself against your own product, let alone everybody else. So I congratulate you for not only continuing with that, but for actually adding those additional questions. Is there any final comment that you wanted to say?
No, I just think, you know, this is a crazy time, but it's also, you know, challenging times do create opportunities. And so I guess we've gone glass half full and thought, okay, how can we better our delivery and our experience and work more closely with our industry, our tourism bodies, you know, connections like this with different areas of the industry are really good that you normally wouldn't have a touch point with. So I guess, yeah, we're feeling optimistic.
Optimistic, love it. Thanks, Karen. All the best.
Thanks.
Alicia, Gold Coast, opening up September. So how have you connected or reconnected with your customers? Who's, you know, where are the bookings coming from?
Yeah, look, I think from the moment we closed our doors, it was a challenge for us because we were so used to the relationships that we do have with our guests. We have many that over the 40 years have been returning, you know, year after year, that have now bringing their grandchildren back or are parents themselves after their sort of childhood holiday many years ago here. So I think going back a little bit, our entertainment manager, Vinny, over the Easter school holidays, we started doing virtual activities and entertainment on Facebook and YouTube. And so it was really important for us to stay connected with our guests during this time and really keep them engaged and involved in what we've been doing here. And I think for us, it's always been, you know, relationship over the transaction. I know no business runs on fresh air. We all need money. But for us, we need to maintain those relationships. And I think for us getting them onto Facebook, we put a question out when we first knew that we were renovating our rooms, and we put it out to our followers and said, what do you want to see? We know we've had feedback from them, you know, over the years, what they like, what they don't like. And it was quite funny. You know, some of them were completely conflicting. One wanted, you know, carpet, one said no carpet, someone wanted this, someone didn't. And so you always have that, and you know you're never going to please everybody, but it is important for us to have that involvement, because we know that they're the ones, we don't have a business without them. So, you know, obviously keeping them in the loop. Obviously, we've been very lucky. 80% of our business has always been domestic Australians. Right? Victoria, Queensland and New South Wales generally are an even split. I think like everyone at the moment, it's very much that local drive market that showed interest straight away. Because we're not opening until the 1st of September now, we are seeing a lot of confidence over Christmas school holidays as well from those other states. We've even got bookings for Christmas and the New Year from New Zealand, even though, you know, there hasn't been a firm date set as to when they can fly over. Right. So I just think, you know, for us, it's keeping connected, keeping them up to date, using our database, using, you know, reaching out to our past guests and saying what they would like to see, and asking the question, what brings them back here? Why are they coming back to the Gold Coast over another destination perhaps? Or, yeah, I think like everyone, we're seeing that local drive market. And
you've always had, as you've said before, a high level of repeat. So are you finding the vast majority are coming directly to you? How have your distribution partners been affected by all of this? Or where do you think as a business you prefer to go?
Look, we have always enjoyed a high level of direct business, and that has definitely still been the same. We have had a lot of people calling our reservations team, jumping on Facebook, just saying, we've been watching what you're doing, we really can't wait to come back. But still, people will still work with our distribution partners, and we're still working with them. So, you know, the Expedias, the Booking.coms, you know, some of our partners, we already know with the renovations, there's a lot of partners saying we want to run a campaign when the time comes. We want to do something for you when you reopen. And I think just from a marketing perspective as well, this has been really important over the last few months. I think we all have partners that it's money and money only, but we've had a lot of partners that have approached us and said, look, how can we help? What can we do? I've seen your post. Do you mind if I share it? Can I put that in our newsletter for you? Is there anything we can do? And look, as I said, I've been here a long time, you know, contra and those relationships and saying, you know, yeah, absolutely, if you can share this for us, I'd love to share something for you in return, whether that be internally when our guests, internally to our guests when we reopen, or now on our social media. We all have platforms that we can share, I think, quite easily and work together to get our messaging out there.
Collaboration and cooperation, absolutely key. And I think it's, you know, it's been a real learning lesson for a lot of distributors out there that have just taken for granted, you know, commission levels, and sometimes, you know, the operator themselves can feel as if they're not quite as loved as or appreciated. And I think that level of appreciation has skyrocketed. So well done. And I, you know, I understand that you have a faithful following, and I love the fact that you opened up to that faithful following, even though it can be a bit of a can of worms when you ask that question. What should we do?
Yes.
And everybody becomes an interior designer. That, you know, the fact that you actually just, you know, took the time and asked them and just connected with them is fantastic. Yeah.
Thank you.
So what about into the future? How do you feel at the moment?
Excited, nervous, everything. I think, yeah, look, obviously excited to welcome our guests back. I mean, it's, you know, we've got trading noise instead of kids squealing outside of our office at the moment. There's normally a jungle gym out there, so I can't wait to hear the sound of squealing kids again. But obviously nervous because nobody knows what's coming. You know, there is still so much. As we said, we're all out there looking for the business, and we all want our businesses to do well. But I think, again, as you said before, collaboration is key, and if we all work together, I think that's the biggest learning that's come out of this for me. It's about, you know, working with your partners, using the relationships that you've built over the years, and you'll get through it.
Yeah. It can be, as been said before, you know, it was such a scary unknown when it first happened. I think, you know, Georgina was saying that. It was a time that we didn't have any answers. You know, we had far more questions, and we're still in the embryo opening stages. So I think we all need to remain optimistic and remain, you know, excited for the future, but also just to be aware that, you know, we can have blips. We've already shown that Victoria has shown that. That as an industry, we're very resilient, and as individuals within that industry, I think we're all showing that resilience. Thank you, Alicia.
Thank you.
Georgina, you were talking about, you know, from a mental point of view at the very beginning, it was a very scary time when we closed down. How have you seen that change, that mental change in in yourself, in your staff, and your local community with the opening up?
Mentally, I think we all started feeling a lot more positive when we were seeing changes actually getting made within the park, that we could all feel that we were contributing to the bigger picture of what it was going to be like when things went back to the new normal. Really, and then the community, once everything started opening up slowly, you got the feeling everything was going to be okay, that eventually we were all going to be operating somewhat in a much different capacity than what we were used to, but we would eventually welcome people again and be able to provide a level of service, not what we're used to, but definitely what we can do with what we've been told, and that we would make people happy again, and people would have those experiences eventually again. And as I was saying earlier, it all just happened really quickly with the restrictions getting lifted. Well, it seemed to anyway. And I've got a park full of happy kids, happy families, people reconnecting, and that alone is enough to enhance all of our spirits for staff and myself.
You almost look like you're a little exhausted. Has the reopening taken its toll on that as well? I mean, like you said, you're in the middle of you know, renovations, and then all of a sudden you have to finish those renovations probably twice as fast as what you anticipated, and then gear up for all of these people. So it's been a bit of long days, long nights.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was only myself and my husband operating the park for 2 months while we didn't have any staff. And so many people said, make the most of the downtime, but there wasn't any.
And he said, what downtime?
Because you're trying to achieve all these jobs that have been on the list for so long that you can eventually start to do. And then before you know it, yep, right, we're open, restrictions are lifted, quick, let's get our game face on and let's welcome again.
And the guests that you have at the moment, where have they come from? Are they coming north as well as south?
Generally, we don't get a lot of northern guests. We tend to get a lot of Sunshine Coast, a lot from Brisbane. I've seen lately a lot from Toowoomba, actually, have been coming. Ipswich, Dalby, Kingaroy.
Wow.
Yeah, western, south and southwest, really, is our biggest market. Obviously, we're coming into winter, and normally we're full of Victorians and South Australians. So that's a shame. A lot of the Victorians have headed into New South Wales hoping to have the appropriate permits and together to be able to cross. So yeah, a lot of our time is spent changing arrival dates for a lot of people that are currently booked for 2 and 3 months. They've just kept pushing out their arrival dates with the hope that they're going to be allowed to come.
And with the opening up of the New South Wales border, have you seen an increase in that sort of target mark coming through?
Not so much New South Wales residents.
Okay.
But the park traditionally is at peak capacity from mid-June till the end of August, from Victorians, Tasmanians and South Australians. So I haven't had a lot of New South Wales inquiries as yet. Still, there has been quite a bit, but they're not our traditional guests at this time. Yep. But definitely with the drive market is massive. People Queenslanders are really embracing the fact that they're allowed to move at this point, and then I'm hoping that once the borders open, we may see. People are still very tentative. They're really unsure. I think there's not a lot of concrete information regarding anybody that is in New South Wales and whether they will be able to travel, I think. And with the issues in Victoria, I think we all, as you were saying before, things can change very quickly.
Yeah. Let's enjoy the Queenslanders enjoying Queensland at the moment, and allow the opening up if and when appropriate. So anything final that you would like to share as part of your COVID experience over these last couple of months? Any key challenges you see into the future? Any key learnings or takings that you've taken away?
Depending on how long the social distancing restrictions remain in place, is really going to impact the way that we operate. Like at the moment, we're doing contactless check-in, so people are coming. There's very limited interaction between ourselves and our guests, and it seems a little bit robotic, which is what we're not used to. Our pools don't have any pool furniture inside them, so guests aren't encouraged to linger, which is what we want them to do, but we're not allowed to let them. So I think those challenges may be around for a little while, but we're certainly adapting to them. But yeah, it is challenging because it goes against our basic ethos of why we operate, and that's for that guest interaction. So that has been challenging.
Yeah, the customer experience itself has certainly changed, and it's got nothing to do with how you're delivering it. And I think people appreciate, well, I don't know whether they appreciate, but they certainly acknowledge that it's not the actual operator themselves. This is being, put onto you through government, and it's for hopefully the benefit of all of us. So I wish you all the best, Georgina. I know you've done a lot of work there, and I hope the bookings keep continuing in. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Eloise, how has the COVID restrictions impacted you, particularly from a transport point of view? Has that been difficult?
The ferry was certainly the most challenging, I think. We have one of our vessels was undergoing some planned maintenance anyway, so we only had our smaller vessel in action, and one per passenger per 4 square meters initially. It was just not, it's a vessel that takes 50 passengers. So once you start putting those kind of restrictions in place, it wasn't really worthwhile running. However, we needed to service the island. So, and we needed to, once we'd reopened, get our guests over. So the boats, they did run with minimal people on board. I mean, we're quite fortunate that the JobKeepers really helped. Mm-hmm. All of our full-time team initially took some annual leave, but it has really allowed us to keep our core full-time staff on board, and even with coming back to work with limited hours initially, and just keep things sort of tied over in the interim. So yeah, I mean not easy, but we're certainly getting there, and the restrictions easing on Friday were a big relief, because it almost leaves us back at capacity.
At capacity, yes. I know a lot of marine operators along the Queensland coast, and they were, they've been challenging government on that particular thing. They knew that people were arriving into their destination on packed planes, on buses, and then all of a sudden they had to be 4 square meters apart. And it just didn't quite seem fair for everybody. So it's wonderful that it's opened up. So what?
Yeah, sorry, that was extremely frustrating. As part of the whole situation, because our vessels have outdoor space and fresh air, and they're open, and obviously on a plane you're not. So that was particularly challenging. And we also there was a lot of jargon, I think, thrown around, and some of it was left up to us to make a decision as to if families were travelling from one household, we were allowed more, and if they weren't, then we were allowed less. And it made it really hard to open up our online bookings, because we were trying to juggle our manifest every day and make sure that we were sort of fitting within social distancing. So it was really, really tricky.
It was the interpretation of those rules. Government put it out as if they were clear cut, and it's like there were 20 questions for every interpretation. It was, I know, incredibly challenging. So with school holidays now, and maybe the September Christmas school holidays, are you finding that bookings are coming through? And are they, have they started coming through from New South Wales or predominantly Queensland?
We are. I just got my Google Analytics back from last month, and our direct hits to our website had grown over 120% from last year. Fabulous. And I'm going to suggest that is just because Queenslanders are looking for somewhere in Queensland. and aren't going to other islands around Australia or other islands overseas, and they're still looking for that experience. So we're seeing big growth, which is great. However, we are sort of also our international. We were really trying to grow our international market, so that's probably a bit of a step back for us. But no, but the domestic growth has been great, and it's exactly what we needed. We recently last year a dive operator started on the island.
Ooh.
So it was another market that we were exploring. Yeah, really exciting for us. And again, they were very limited initially because there was no contact. They weren't allowed to do their buddy checks, so they weren't operating at all. But their first dive was last weekend, and it was fully booked. So we're really excited to see that going forward as well.
Oh, look, that's going to make a lot of divers in Queensland very happy. They've been looking for new areas to be able to do that. So that's exciting. So how are you letting people know about these things? Is it predominantly past guests? Is it your social media?
Yeah, we have a couple of different, so we have EDMs that go out. We have past guests that we have email for. Social media, we have a pretty strong following as well. We've reined in any marketing spend per se, but we're doing some contra with local radio and TV.
Nice.
And so we've had really good response there as well. And we work really closely with our regional tourism organisations. So Capricorn Enterprise are worth every penny of our membership, and they've been so supportive through all of this. They've lobbied on our behalf, and they've been amazing. So we keep our partnership with them very close to our heart, and value what they do, and luckily going forward they've got some great initiatives coming out as well.
Excellent to hear. I think a lot of people, having been an RTO manager myself, a regional tourism organisation manager in North Queensland for many years, you know, I remember once upon that I had one of my customers say, but you know, what exactly do you do for this couple of $100, which was back then membership? And, you know, you obviously had a list of a range of things, but as you just said then, you know, the lobbying, and there's a lot of behind the scenes activities that are happening. And I remember saying to this particular person, you know, we could always take that $200 and put that as an ad in the local newspaper. It would be about the size of a box of matches on one day of 365 days. So it's great to hear that you're fully supporting them and they're supporting you. So I wish you all the best. I know that there are still challenges into the future coming out. I did want to touch base staffing wise. Have you had any issues with regional, you know, obviously it is a smaller regional area, trying to get staff to service the resort, etc. Has that been impacted during this time?
Well, we have our core team is pretty long term now. I think the newest recruits are sort of 4 years ago or something.
Great.
So we do have a very solid core team, which initially the business did struggle with, because not having a school on the island and not having early services over, you have to live and work there. And if you have a family in town, well, too bad, too sad, you might see them 2 days a week. So it was something we did initially struggle with, but we've got sort of down pat now, and our core team's really great. We utilise particularly working holiday visas casual staff for our peak periods. So unfortunately, when all of this happened and the restaurant closed, a lot of them were let go. They did stay on the island and they were participating and throwing the paint around and all that kind of stuff, but just to earn their food and board kind of thing. And I think going forward, with the working holiday visa guys being stuck in locations for such a long time, people are looking to move on and do different things. So we will still utilise them in busier peak periods, but we're keeping that slightly. You know, the staffing will definitely be tighter in the interim until normal capacity and normal numbers are travelling. Yeah.
That's just a slightly different situation to a lot of islands. You know, the fact that you've had such long staff, you need to be congratulated on it. Thanks, Eloise.
We're pretty quirky.
Yes, I know. I look forward to visiting as I come up the coast. I'll speak to you.
Thank you.
Later.
Thank you.
Hi, Zoe. So, what about some words of wisdom from you as we finally leave this last week? I know you sounded so enthusiastic and inspiring. You know, looking towards the future, how do you think that your beautiful winery is going to move forward?
Gosh, who knows? I don't have a crystal ball. I wish I did.
Don't you?
And I always feel funny getting asked for advice. I'm perpetually going to feel like the new kid on the block. We've only been at it for kind of 5 or 6 years, and I guess the way that we've embraced everything is just to kind of keep an open mind about every possible opportunity that comes your way, and be really open to people's new ideas and forming connections, and just I don't know, keeping an open mind moving forward. So I guess that's how we will continue to do our business.
You're talking about really forming connections. We talked about distribution last time. So how did you go about, getting your product into something like a Dan Murphy's?
I just emailed danmurphys.com and said, hey, I've got a really cool cider. Do you want to sell it? And
said,
obviously didn't hear back from them for months and months and months because I had no idea about anything. But they actually do a product category review every 12 months. And all of a sudden, cider rolled around again. And they're like, oh, yeah, cool. Sounds great. You do realize you're the only craft apple cider producer in Queensland, don't you? They're like, yeah, I knew that. Sure. And it just kind of evolved from there, which is kind of, a little bit dumb luck and a little bit, I don't know, just throwing stuff out there and seeing what sticks.
I just love the attitude, though. Let's just give it a go.
What's the worst that could happen? That's how we started our whole business. So we were 26, living in Western Australia. I was working for a uni. Josh was working for the local council. We went on a holiday to Hawaii because, hey, we were cashed up, no kids, why not? And just got really inspired by the lifestyle, and everyone was so happy. And this tourism thing, man, it seems great. Everyone's just living the dream. And got back to Perth in the middle of winter and thought, nah. this isn't going to do it anymore. And literally 2 weeks after that, we bought a farm in Childers and moved across the country.
See, I love that. The entrepreneurial spirit, and just the spirit per se, as in let's just give it a go. And
what's the worst that could happen?
Happy about life. Absolutely. Sometimes we've got to take that risk, but with an optimistic view of the world. Mm-hmm. Not to go into it. A lot of people, often go in and start thinking about failure. What if? But give it your whole passion, give it your best. And on reflection, at any point in your life, you can always look back and go, well, we gave it our best shot.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I look forward to more inspiring young women like yourself, showcasing and paving the way into, to the future. I'm got the long tooth of tourism with 40 odd years behind me. So there's certainly a lot of experience, and I've seen lots of bumps along the way, but I love when I chat to young, inspiring people like yourself who are going to carry our tourism into the future. And when we do open our borders, there's going to be a lot more fantastic experiences for our international guests to be able to experience. So thank you very much, Zoe. Really appreciate having you on today and for you taking the time.
No, thanks for inviting me, and lovely to meet all you ladies.
Yeah. I'm just going to hand over to Bindi to do a quick wrap up before I do my final farewells and thank yous. Bindi, what an exciting and inspiring group of women again.
Yeah, every week is different, but there's some themes that run through each week, and this week is no different, obviously. But one of the themes we've seen, particularly for those operators who have properties, multi-skilling has really kept people employed, which is great. It'll probably help you in the future as well, I reckon. Giving yourself a break, I think, is really important. And it helps you to reflect. And I think a lot of people have been given a chance to reflect and look at our values a little bit differently and embrace that opportunity to travel differently. So that's great to see, and hopefully that sticks around. Pricing is no longer the primary buying decision indicator because our values have shifted. Discounting's not happening, which is great, and people are paying for it, which is also great. So there's a channel shift happening, as we've seen throughout the weeks, to digital, to remain connected with customers and to keep those relationships alive. This time's also made us see that we're in this together. I know it sounds very cliche, and there's so many cliches out of this pandemic, but we are in this together. And collaborating with each other is how we're going to have that growth and adaptation to a new normal. there's been no downtime for some of us during this pandemic, as it's really given us that time to do the things we never had time to do. And that time has pretty much flown for some of us. So for those of you who haven't had a break, please, I hope you get it soon. And a key part of a holiday is actually being social and having a rest. And that social distancing really stops us from being social. And it's really impacting our holiday. And last but not least, I think attitude is a really big part of the recovery here. And if we can keep that same spirit that Zoe's got, I think we're going to all be fine.
I agree. Thank you very much. Well, guys, as I said, this was a journey that I started over 8 weeks ago. The whole purpose of this came about through the Advancing Women in Business initiative put out by the Queensland government. And I decided that I needed to jump in and grab this opportunity to be able to connect, engage, and support women in tourism. So I specifically went after that grant from a tourism angle. And I'm so pleased for the fabulous 50-odd women that we've had on the show and the hundreds and hundreds of people that have come online and been able to view our webinars and listen to the podcast series. So once again, I thank the Queensland government for their initiative. I thank our supporters, Tourism Events Queensland and QTIC, for promoting these. I thank very much the panelists, Karen from Mary Valley Rattler up in Gympie, thank you very much. Alicia Szerszyn from the beautiful Gold Coast Paradise Resort. Eloise from the Great Keppel Island Hideaway just off Rockhampton. Thanks very much, Eloise. Look forward to seeing you soon. Georgina from the Discovery Parks Fraser Coast in Hervey Bay, all the very best. Zoe, once again, the Ohana Winery and Cheeky Tidi Cider. I just love the name, very cute. All the very best. Thank you very much. Thank you very much to Bindi for this entire series and for all the support that you have given me. As the state starts opening up once again and the states start opening up once again, I wish you all the very, very success into the future. Take some time to take care of yourselves when you do have any downtime, because I think the school holidays will obviously be very crazy, but then we'll have that lag period and there will be doubt that will come back in, and we'll be questioning and querying various different policies that may come right up and through to Christmas. But again, we're a resilient industry. You're resilient as our operators. I congratulate you for achieving what you have to date, and I do wish you all the very best into the future. So all the best. Goodbye, everybody, and thank you very much for participating. Take care. Bye.